Okay. Well, once again, this is your soul brother, Talib, and I kind of want to discuss basically a few things in this quick video about this state that I'm in, called Nebraska. Which is in the middle part of the country, which is, of course, the Midwest. And, a lot of people, especially when it comes to mainstream American history, you know, certain things just ain't never brought up. But, you know, just like states in this region like Missouri, um, Oklahoma, Kansas, you know, had a lot of history, dealing with racism, mainly toward black people, well as, of course, Native American Indians, who've dwelled in this part of the country for generations, and stuff like that. Uh, I like to say that, Nebraska may not be one of the most talked about states or places in America as far as racism is concerned, but I tell you, it's definitely here. Like anywhere else in the United States, it's definitely here, and there are those even who are black that locally live here or have stayed here that pretend like, you know, racism don't exist here. And I find myself being around that type of mentality of people living in this state. Unfortunately, you get these Caucasians here, especially the undercover racist kind, that say they don't see racism when in fact they do, because they are racist themselves, and I have to say that, far as the history of this state go, when blacks was first coming here to Nebraska, mainly Omaha, which is an hour from where I'm at here in Lincoln, they would come in to seek employment as porters, working on railroad trains and stuff. And the porter business industry was very, popular and very highly economic in this region of the country at that time, when a lot of blacks was escaping the old Jim Crow South to migrate, especially to this part of the Midwest, well as other parts of the country like up north and the West Coast and stuff. But there were blacks who were migrating here at that time and faced a lot of, racial hostility and a lot of discrimination, even to the point of lynchings taking place. Like, it was this one soul brother in Omaha, and this was just over 100 years ago, because last year was the 100th anniversary of his death. And a white woman, of course, as the usual narrative go, with history and historic lynchings of black people, is that she accused this brother of raping her. Of course, and to come to find out, like in most cases like that back during that time in this country, that he did not rape her. But still, it was a lynch mob of Caucasians who, went into the Douglas County Courthouse in Omaha, Nebraska. Like I say, which is just 1 hour away from here. And they dragged him up out of there. And of course, the police did not protect him and gladly gave him over to the lynch mob, and took him, lynched him, and then burnt him at the stake. And that was all she wrote, another dead N word, basically. Like in the cases of, like I said, thousands of lynchings that took place during that time period in this country, and lynchings that has still not been resolved yet as far as murders go in this country of dark-skinned descendants of slaves born in this country. So, also too, I was always a history buff when it came to stuff like, certain black icons in this country like Malcolm X, all the way from the time when I was a child, and since I've been living in this state, even though I always knew he was born here in Nebraska, but I didn't know that his family had a history dealing with racism here. Like his father, Earl Litter Sr., who was a pastor and who was a local leader of the Garveyite organization chapter in Omaha, was threatened by the Ku Klux Klan and had to leave Omaha and Nebraska altogether and take him, as well as Malcolm Little, who would later become known as Malcolm X, aka Alhaj Malik Shabazz, and relocate their family, at least to seek refuge from the brutality that the Ku Klux Klan had in store for Earl Litter Sr. because of the fact of his stance as far as what he stood on as a Garveyite at that time. And, like I said, it's not too much talked about. And here, especially the common Caucasian, a lot of them who don't even know who Malcolm X is and don't even know that he was from Nebraska. And some of them do know that he was from here, but don't choose to really talk about him because, of course, a black man with his mentality would not be accepted here at all, let alone accepted here, but tolerated here, And this is, of course, why Malcolm X never came back to Nebraska. And of course, if I was in his shoes, and what I know about this state, I probably wouldn't have never came back either, But yes, it is definitely racist here. I've seen even old clippings, of a annual Ku Klux Klan march that they had on a local main street here in town where I live, dating back to the late 1920s, you know, which which is almost 100 years ago. And I mean, it's like every time I walk on that particular street, sometimes that keep coming to my mind, you know, and knowing that this is a conservative state, a conservative white Caucasian state, and of course a Republican state, of course, and all that good stuff, and it's certain things that when it comes to black people here, you don't really too much see going on as ones in other states would. I rarely see black people here walk around with t-shirts or clothing entire with Martin Luther King Jr.'s picture on it, let alone a picture of Malcolm X or any other black known historical figure, especially that was for the freedom and liberation of black people in America. You don't see blacks walk around with stuff like that on them out of fear of white people here, mainly. And it does have a lot to do with it. And because of the discrimination here that goes on, you have a lot of blacks because of that can't even keep a job long here because they're so discriminated against at the workplace that they quit their jobs and go somewhere else, And from my understanding, according to locals that I've talked to here, that's been going on for some time, And also, it's like you got to walk on eggshells when you're here, being especially black and a black male, of course, at that, especially because, you're always targeted, you're always profiled, stereotyped, and, especially when you stick out like a thorn, because it's not that many blacks here, of course, but it's one thing, because I've been other places where it's not a lot of blacks at. And, I did not, to be honest, if you want me to be really honest, I did not really feel that type of racial hostility like I feel here in this environment. And I've been here for the past few years now. And because of what I spoke about in my other video the other night about, the influx of, more of a black migration coming here, it's making things worse. Plus of the fact that, they see crime rising and stuff and all this and everything. And now it's at the point where they want to box all black people in as being criminals, drug dealers, and other negative stereotype of stuff, that comes along with being associated with black people, mainly dark-skinned descendants of slaves born in America anyway. So like I said, it's really crazy here, And from what I see at this point in time, like I said, once I'm done doing what I must do, it's time to go, It's too much of a hostile environment here, especially when you have other people, so-called color, here in this town that don't, or in this state that don't want to see other darker skinned people or the blacks get no further than where they all getting ahead of, or get ahead in life, period, So like I said, it's just out of order, it really is. And I really you know have gotten to even the point where the less I realize that I associate with people here, the less problems, because people here funny anyway. People here fake. They're very fictitious, and they talk a lot here. There's a lot of gossip here. That's one thing about Lincoln, Nebraska, there's a lot of gossiping going on, you know, and it's like, and of course, because it's a smaller city, but it's a lot of just too much gossiping. People always complaining about stuff that ain't even relevant to even complain about, or often to somebody else's business when they should be worrying about their own business and priorities as individuals or whatnot, and it's like they even, will call the police on you, especially if you're black, just because. And a lot of times you ain't got to really be doing nothing suspicious that's suspected as or considered as committing a crime or whatever, They just call the police on you just for the hell of it. Just for the HELL of it, they'll call the police on you. Just especially like I say, if you black, you know, they see an N-word, or they go an N-word, let's call the police, because they know the police will come when you identify the N-word to them, that type of situation, And I mean, they're very and they're already intimidated by the fact, like I say, because there are blacks who are coming here with a lot of unnecessary negative baggage and bringing a lot of that mentality here. And so they not used to that. And so, they'll see any other black, even ones like myself that's law abiding, as a member of the community, and they'll box people like me in all with the rest, like they all the same, type mentality, and so, like I said before, it's at the point where now, it's definitely not a place I would want to be. A few years ago when I came here, I thought it was a place I even might want to start me a family at, to raise a family here, but that's not an option any longer. As far as myself go, I just don't see that here, It's too hostile of an environment, and of course, it's just too much hostile, especially when you're dealing with like I say, when you're dealing with the racism factor of it, the covert and even direct discrimination to some point that goes on here, you just don't really want to even be bothered with a lot of stuff here, and it's sad, but it is what it is. But the only way a person got the will and deal is when it comes to survival, and stuff like that, or when you got to feed yourself or family or whatever, and that's as far as that should go, as far as being here, because I wouldn't even, encourage black people anywhere else in the country, to move to a state like this. I really wouldn't. And even though it's more black people in Omaha, but from my understanding, Omaha is one of the hardest places it's said to be one of the hardest places for so-called African Americans to live in the United States. And that's supposed to be a statistical fact as well, you know, which I wouldn't doubt it because of the racial divide and stuff as far as historically that's went on in Omaha over the years. I could see that, you know. But like I said, you know, it's very you know, to the point where like I said, I wouldn't encourage no black person to move here to Nebraska for nothing, you know. It's not you know, conducive. Even the University of Nebraska, you know, shows a lot of prejudices and racism toward their own so-called minority students, especially those that are black Americans, and in particular, you know. And that's why when a lot of them do manage to get their degrees, they leave and go somewhere else, which is the best thing, you know, because I mean, it's not going to, even with them having a degree, it's not going to serve them a purpose to stay here, you know, and have to put up with all that stuff and with the hostility, the racial animosity and hatred that goes on here. I wouldn't want to put up with it if I even was a college graduate with a 4-year degree, you know. So, you know, they got to move on, you know, and that's what most of them usually do. They leave and go elsewhere to pursue their degrees and all that kind of stuff, you know. But like I said before, you know, this is just a place where, you know, that is educationally beneficial, in which I am working on, you know, getting me a GED certificate, you know, and once I'm done with that, I'm out of here. You know, I plan on going to college, taking up a trade, but once I'm done with getting my GED, I got to go somewhere else and do that because staying here doing it any much more longer is not gonna do nothing but cause me more stress, you know, and stuff like that. Nah, I don't need that in my life. I'm already dealing with enough health issues and stuff to be going through all that, you know. So, you know, like I said, it's just you know, it's not a this is just not a good situation to be in, you know. When I came here, you know, I was not, of course, under the right frame. I wasn't in, of course, the right frame of mind either, because I was in a darker place in my life at that time, you know, which I have fortunately risen from, thankfully, you know. But I you know, when I made the choice to come here, I wasn't, like I say, thinking clear at that time. And sometimes, like any other person, a human, I just made a irrational decision. And that's something I, futuristically, I would not do. Even when I relocate from here to go somewhere else. Now I'm in a, you know, process of doing research, you know, far as me looking at other places I want to go to when I do relocate to another geographical area in the country, you know. I want to make sure that the environment is less populated, but also less hostile as well, you know, because there are different places in this country that is a lot more or less hostile than here in Nebraska. And you know, although this still America, no matter where one go in the 50 states, this is still America. And what comes along with America is, we know, the old historic as well as present dilemma called racism. So, you know, It's no getting around that, you know. That's just the reality of it. But however, there are some places in this country that is less hostile when it comes to environments where, you know, hatred and racial, non-tolerance is concerned and all this other stuff, or intolerance is concerned, So, like I said before, I just want to, let people know that, hey, especially those blacks who are trying to relocate, to leave out of metropolitan areas like Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, or even Kansas City, or Atlanta, or Baltimore, or New York City, or LA, or Oakland, or even trying to leave somewhere like, you know, a Houston or Dallas, or trying to leave from some other metropolitan area in this country where it's a lot of ghetto hood stuff going on that just want to go live somewhere where they could raise themselves and their families, in a more peaceful, environmental situation, Uh, I would say that definitely don't come to Nebraska. There are other places for that you can look forward to going. But Nebraska is definitely not an option, Like I say, and it may not be as worse like certain other places, but it is in terms, the crime is growing here because there are people coming from those other certain places that's bringing that negative baggage here. And with what's already existing here, far as, racism, crime, and then with your Caucasian majority population, which is a portion of them are affected by the meth drug addiction epidemic, as well as the opiate drug epidemic and stuff, and that doesn't do nothing but compound that situation. And so, it's not getting any better here, and that's the reason why, I wouldn't even, like I say, I wouldn't even encourage other blacks to come to Nebraska. I really wouldn't, you know, under them circumstances, especially, if they trying to find somewhere else to escape the hood or to escape poverty, or where you'll find other blacks at that don't want to see other black people progress in life, and stuff like that. I get you, and I'm with you 1000% on that. And I encourage you to spread your wings and relocate to somewhere better where you feel more safe and secure, especially far as yourself and your family, But like I said, Nebraska is definitely, you wouldn't want to even attempt to even test the waters like that here in Nebraska. Because, white folks here try to really make you feel uncomfortable too, I mean, especially like I say, and then you got these ghetto-ish white folks here, a lot of them, like I just mentioned, the ones that's, affected by that drug epidemic, like far as meth, amphetamines, and heroin, and opioids, and all that kind of stuff there, So I mean, it's a big problem with that here. It's a very big problem with that here, and you leaving from one dump and coming to this type of dump really don't make no sense, especially if you're, making a decision with a clear mind on what you got to do, as far as relocating and stuff like that. But anyway, I just wanted to, put that out there, just to let you people know that this is not Nebraska. If you do come here, make sure it's a very beneficial financial situation that you can't refuse. you know. Other than that, I wouldn't encourage no one, especially as another dark-skinned descendant of a slave born here in America, to relocate here. And plus, like I said, no, in Omaha, they have serious problems as well. As it may not be a super metropolitan area, but they try to rate up there with places like Kansas City and St. Louis and Chicago. They got their issues with gang banging, which is a serious problem there, and stuff, and of course the drug trade that's going on there. So, I mean, you really don't want to be choosing to go in a direction like that there, and like I said before, I'm gonna bring it to you just like it is. I'm just gonna definitely bring it to you like it is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat nothing because, like somebody say, at this platform we keeps it real, and that's just that simple. And with that said, I'ma pass on and get on with the rest of my day. Uh, and I'll get back with you on the flip. Peace.